Emma!
Yes, Malin.
What did the video game writer say in his rave review of Katamari Damacy?
Jeez, I just don't have any idea.
When you play this game, you'll have a ball! Hello, and welcome to Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
I'm one of your hosts, Madeline.
I'm your other host, Emma.
And wasn't that joke just hilarious?
No.
Wow. Wow. I really thought that between this joke and last week's hilarious joke that I was really on a roll.
Wow,
I'll just keep trying. Katamari Damacy really sets itself up for the puns. Hello again. Welcome again. I'm just going to keep welcoming you this episode, I think, to talk this. So this week, as you may have guessed, we're going to be talking about Katamari Damacy, that video game classic, that unlikely video game classic. And we're also going to be talking about, for our new game this week, we're going to be talking about Prey.
We're on a space kick.
That's true, we are. This week, as every week, we're talking about one old game and one new game, and we'll be mashing them up. Although we sort of already did our mashup for this week in last week's episode, before I even really knew what Prey was. So maybe we're off the hook. Or maybe we'll come up with something even better, but probably not.
Yeah.
So Emma, shall we just jump right in? I feel like usually we banter for a while, but I'm just excited to talk about Katamari.
Malin loves Katamari.
It's so fun.
I like Katamari. I don't love
I'm sorry.
Katamari.
The correct answer is we love Katamari.
Oh, you're right.
Get it?
Yeah, I get it.
You sound like you might not get it.
I get it. It's funny.
Because one of the sequels is called We Love Katamari.
It's the title. Good job, Malin.
Wow. This is getting really mean towards me really fast. We're like 2 minutes in. Emma, do you want to try to explain Katamari Damacy for those who've not been exposed to its greatness?
Okay. You feel it. You feel the cosmos.
I feel it. I feel the cosmos.
And that's the explanation.
There you go. That's it.
The whole game.
I mean, honestly, that does about sum it up. Like, that's probably, like, how it was conceptualized. Like, it's like just this game where you feel it.
Yeah, you feel the
cosmos.
No, okay, so I don't actually remember the setup for the first game. Like, how does there's this weird king of the cosmos, and he somehow destroys all the planets and stars. Mm-hmm. How does he do that in the first game? I don't remember.
I'm trying to remember, too, because I've most recently been playing... He does it in every game, and I can't remember what the motivation is in that first game. I'll think about it. You explain the concept, I'll see if I can remember.
Probably an accident of some sort. I feel like it usually is. But the king of the cosmos has a son called the Prince, who's like little mini green king of the cosmos. And so he tasks his son with cleaning up after his mess by using a ball called the Katamari, which can roll stuff up. And when it rolls stuff up properly, it can turn into a planet or a star of some sort. So he has all these different missions to replace all these different planets and constellations, including like all the zodiac ones. And then at the end, you roll up everything because you just do. And also there's a weird little interlude where a family is like dealing with the end of the world thanks to the king. And the little girl feels the cosmos. The little girl is literally the freakiest character ever.
I feel it.
I feel the cosmos.
Even though it's not even really mostly about her brother, I feel like.
Yeah, but her brother is like the viewer, but the girl is always like seeing things out of the corner of the eye, and she's like, "What's that?" And by the time the brother turns, it's gone. So clearly, the little girl is the one in touch with the mushrooms.
Well, you knew that, right? She feels the cosmos.
Yeah,
like you literally just said that. So I realized that like Katamari is one of those games that you can't really explain to people.
Yeah, it is,
which makes it a great subject for a podcast.
I know. It's really like you have to like look at it to really fully understand. I feel like what it is, and listen to the trippy music too.
Na 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 na. Am I allowed to sing this? Maybe I'm not allowed.
Well, probably that part is fine.
Yeah.
Don't sing the full song, maybe. Apparently that came from, like, someone was just, like...
he was just recording. He was like,
voice tracks.
Like, let's come up with an idea for this. And it's literally just, like, his, like, pocket recorder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, this sounds good.
Okay, so basically, Katamari, I mean, the story is nice. You get these weird little interludes, and you get to be like, what the heck is that? But really, most of what the game is you're the prince, and you're rolling around this giant sticky ball and rolling stuff up.
Yeah, you're really
causing
a serial
mayhem. Killer. Yeah, it is a little bit, like, if you think too hard about it, although everybody seems happy on the Katamari.
What? They seem happy, you know? They're, like, flailing their arms and legs around.
Right, but when you then afterwards, right, like spoiler alert, when the sun gets the little dude and the Cosmos girl get rolled up, their whole family seems pretty happy.
I guess it's a metaphor for, like, togetherness.
Yeah, it's just like we're all together in one big Katamari.
Yeah.
And we know from we love Katamari when all the fans are like, hey, roll me up, roll this up for me. We know that they love it.
Oh yeah, the sequel is like everybody's a big fan of what you did in the first game, so they want more. Very meta.
But it's like, it's true though. But yeah, I mean, mostly what you do is you go around and, like, the 2-word summary of Katamari is get bigger.
Yeah. Basically.
And it's so fun.
Except sometimes, like, that's not always, like, the goal is, like, get as big as possible. Sometimes you have to, like, roll up a specific thing. Which are the more annoying levels. Like the bear level. We have to, like, roll up the biggest bear possible.
Is notorious. And we can talk about the bear level. But I like the ones where you're doing, like, roll up as many twins as possible, or roll up as many fish. I think those themes are fun.
Yeah. Yeah, the issue is just where the level stops as soon as you roll up one of them.
Yes, those are horrible. Those are horrible. That is my gripe with... I think Katamari Damacy is probably up there in my top 10 games of all time. Mm-hmm. Which is a series that we talked about doing at some point and then never did.
We should really do it.
Yeah, definitely. It could be side quests at some point, maybe. We could do, like, a series of side quests talking about our... Like, doing one, like, individual talks about our favorite games.
Yeah.
Wow, podcast brainstorming happening live on the air, folks.
You've heard it here first, and we'll do it in, like
3 months.
Based on our track record so far.
Remember our show notes?
Oh my god, stop reminding me about the show notes.
Anyway,
okay. I need
Katamari.
to, like, restructure that page so that it, like have, like, a couple of pages, because it's, like, not loading very well right now anyway, because there's
maybe we should just roll it all up and start over.
Maybe.
So, Emma, why is Katamari Damacy fun?
I don't know, because it's so goofy, I guess. I like it. I never liked it as much as you and Dad did. Probably because I started too early when I still wasn't, like I didn't have the dexterity to really control the Katamari. Because the controls are a little bit clunky sometimes.
Yeah.
Which is sometimes fun, but sometimes it's a little bit like, I don't even know what's happening right now. So I probably, like, you know, I wasn't at an age where I was able to deal with that, so I got frustrated with it, and I feel like that frustration is sort of, like, stuck with me even to now. So even though I like it, I don't love it as much as you did, I feel like.
But how did this game get made? I guess that's sort of the question that I'm getting at. Like, I can't imagine walking into a game pitch meeting and being like, you know what's gonna sell?
I feel like Japanese game pitch meetings are probably a little bit different than American or other Western game pitch meetings.
I'd suppose so. I still feel like, here it is, like a giant ball.
Yeah, but, like, also, like, who thought, like, a running hedgehog would ever be a big thing? You know, like a running blue hedgehog.
That's fair.
And, you know, other stuff like that. Like, a lot of the, especially since it's a little bit older, I feel like there was, you know, some weird stuff that happened back then.
Right, before we figured out that video games could make a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, I feel like even then they probably knew that they could make a lot of money. I mean, like, you know, Mortal Kombat and stuff.
Fine, before we realized that all video games had to make a lot of money.
Yeah. I mean, it's not, who's the developer? It's not like a big studio.
It's through Namco, but I don't know who the developer is.
Namco, I don't know if, they're a developer and a publisher.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I don't think that they developed it, but I actually don't know.
But yeah, you know, there's always some games that, you know, there's weird games. I don't know how else to say it. Like, there's a market for, like, really weird, trippy stuff, so.
I just feel like Katamari is like satisfying and cathartic in a way that, like, immediately, in a way that a lot of games aren't.
Mm-hmm.
Because you get to see your progress, and the king sometimes, if you do a really good job, tells you that you do a good job.
Oh, that was also traumatizing. When you fail a level, oh god.
That's true. When you fail a level, the
horror
king of
game.
Cosmos is very disappointed in you.
It turns into, like, a horror game.
Yeah, there is, like, a little mini game where it's like you try to survive his wrath.
Man.
Which is not... It is a little traumatic. I'll grant you that.
It was really traumatic. But then again, if you do it right, you get Royal Rainbow. So...
What?
Royal Rainbow.
Oh, when you do it right. I thought you were saying you could turn the evil minigame into Royal Rainbow, and I was like, what?
No, when you do it right, you get the Royal Rainbow.
Yeah,
it's a very sudden tone shift.
Royal Rainbow!
Yeah. But yeah, I remember that being traumatizing.
Do you have a favorite Katamari level?
No.
Wow, okay.
I don't know. I don't remember, like, I remember the levels, but not, like, super clearly to, like, have a favorite.
I like the sumo one.
Maybe the one we have to, like, that's what I was going to say, the sumo one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have to roll up the fat
your Katamari is not a ball. It's you're rolling a sumo wrestler. And he apparently absorbs food through osmosis.
Yeah.
And can also eat anything. Much like me.
Speaking of horror games.
Yeah, you roll up this guy and then, like, you have to, like, take him into sumo battle at the end. Like, the end isn't, like, the time runs out. The end is you battle this other sumo wrestler and roll him up.
You have to make sure that you're big enough to get him.
Mm-hmm. I like that one. I have a soft spot for the Fireflies one. It's kind of dumb, but I like that's like, oh, you get brighter and brighter and brighter. I like the candy, like the Hansel and Gretel one where you roll up the gingerbread house. Mm-hmm. That one is one of the most satisfying. Because it's just like, you just like roll through the house and you're just like taking off like chunks of gingerbread.
That's true. Yeah, once you get big enough, you just like roll up the entire house all at once. Yeah. It's pretty satisfying.
And like, I do not like the ones where you're sort of going for middling-sized Katamaris. Or even small-sized. I like the ones best that are, like, you're rolling up something special. It's like you're rolling up all the bells or all the dogs, I think, is maybe one of them. That kind of thing. I like those ones. I like the dogs, especially. Although I can't remember if it's a real level or if I've made that up.
It's the one that's there's Canis, right? That's the dog star. So, probably this one.
So I like those, and I like the ones where you get huge, right? Like, I like the ones where you're eventually, and this is something I love about the game, is eventually you're literally rolling around the world, right? And they've got, like, the Eiffel Tower, and, like, the Taj Mahal, and the Great Wall of China, and eventually you're getting, like, weird things, right? Like, you're rolling up, like, Godzilla.
Yeah.
And, like, whole countries that you're rolling up. But that's really fun, because it's like, oh, look at this, like, whimsical thing that's going on, right? That's really fun. What's not really fun is the ones where it's like, you have 5 minutes to get to 3 meters. It's like, this is, like, the worst part of the game. That slog from, like, 20 centimeters to 3 meters or so is the worst part of the game.
Yeah. You just end up running into a lot of things that you feel like you should be able to roll up, but can't.
You're like,
quite.
I'm definitely big enough to pick up this little girl now. And it's like, nope, you're like 2 centimeters short.
Yeah.
I will say that the games, like the way that they add to your diameter does not seem particularly realistic to me.
Well, yeah. It's probably hard to do the actual math calculations for that. Like, how much, if you add one chair to a circle, how much does that increase your diameter?
But that's another fun thing. I like when they're like, oh, your Katamari is as big as 20 horses, or whatever, when they do that kind of thing. All those little
what does that even
touches. Mean? Yeah, I know.
Is it like if 20 horses were compressed into a ball?
Hush. It doesn't mean anything. It's just fun. It's whimsical. Go along with it.
Okay.
And frankly, the thing that really adds to the fun and the catharsis of it most of all is the music.
Yeah. It's got some earworms.
It has more. We're gonna have to. I might post like a Katamari song of the day.
Katamari song of the day.
There are enough good ones. I feel like they would be good alarm clock, like ringtones.
No.
Kind of horrible ones too, but also good ones.
You wouldn't want to wake up to that.
You wake up gently to the na 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 na, and then it breaks out into the remix, right?
Into the remix.
Well, they have like the whole thing is like they have the original songs, and then in the later games they remix them all, and sometimes the remixes are good.
But see, like you can't set alarm clock musics to little doopy doop songs that are going to be stuck in your head all day.
That's the point.
Know? No.
It would probably ruin playing the game for me.
Yeah.
Like I have, I just have like the standard sort of I can't like think of how it goes right now, right? This sort of standard alarm clock that comes on your iPhone.
Yeah.
The doodle 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 doo, that one.
Yeah.
And when I hear people who have it as their ringtone in public, I literally like seize up. Like I have a reaction to it because my body is like back to sleep. Yeah. So maybe the Katamari songs, I feel like in theory they would be good wake up songs, but it would ruin the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will say that it's disappointing to me that they seem to have stopped making these games.
Yeah.
I know they made a mobile version a couple years ago, but they haven't had a real platform release, I think, in like... We looked this up at some point because I was playing the most recent one, and I was like, how recent is this? And it was like, wow, it's like 2009 or something like that.
Yeah.
So
it's on the PlayStation 3.
Yeah. So it's disappointing to me that they haven't made more. And it's disappointing to me that even that last one that they've made is, like, not really a new game, right? It's sort of a greatest hits compilation.
The guy who made it just made last year, like, a new mobile game with a really weird name. Like, it's, like, the same syllable, like, 7 times. I can't remember what it is. Maybe, like, wah, 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 or something like that. I don't remember. I don't even remember what it was. It's just that it looked weird and very like him. But I guess that's what he's been working on.
Well, it's just I don't know. I realize that there aren't that many new concepts for Katamari. Like, they've done a lot of the cool things that they could do with it. But there's got to be more. I feel like there's got to be more. Frankly, it's fun to even roll around in that same world. Like, literally, it's like, I know that this world that they've created that you roll around in, like, by heart. Right? Like, it's like you start in a little house, then you go out to the little courtyard, and, like...
Yeah, but all you can really do is, like, make new levels. You can't really switch it up too much.
Well, there must be sort of themed concepts that they haven't dealt with yet. I'm trying to think. I mean, like, I like the super speed Katamari kind of idea. I feel like that could be fun.
Katamari Racing.
Katamari Racing, that could be fun. Or
No.
expanding. Okay, so they do have local co-op. But it's mostly sort of just like head to head, and like eventually you roll up your part. Oh, well, they have two versions. There's one that sucks, where it's like two people are pushing the Katamari.
Oh,
and
God.
you have to work together.
Oh, God.
And that's, I don't know who thought that was a good idea, because that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
But they also have like sort of a head-to-head one where eventually you roll up your partner, and I feel like expanding that capability could be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to see Katamari. We love Katamari together. Or
We love
let's
Katamari
Let's
together.
play Katamari together. That would be the title of it.
Aw.
Um,
So cute.
Right? I don't know. I think there are fun possibilities for this that I wish they would explore, because dang it, I want another Katamari game.
Speaking of cute things. Just kidding.
Was that your transition to Prey?
It was ironic.
Wait, I have one more thing. I think that Katamari is a good game to introduce non-gamers to video games.
Really?
I do.
It has to be a certain type of person, though.
Okay, fair. I mean, yes, it should be a certain type of person.
Like, it's not just a game you can give to anybody and expect them to like.
Oh, I don't mean as like a gift. I don't mean like,
No, I
here's
don't mean
your
as a
birthday
gift
present,
either.
Timmy.
I don't mean a gift either. I mean, like, you know, trying to introduce someone to games. Like, it has to be a particular kind of person. Because if they don't have the personality for Katamari, they're going to be like, what the heck?
Oh, everyone loves Katamari. Katamari forever.
Okay. No, but if it's like their first exposure to anything, you know, like weirdly Japanese is really the only way to put it. Like, they're just gonna be like, you're a weeb, man, and not be your friend anymore.
That's fair. And I was also thinking, like, it's really fun, but also the camera sucks and the controls are hard. And so maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I take it back.
Yeah.
But no, Katamari though is a fun game to watch even when you're not playing, which I feel
Yeah,
like
that's
is not a common thing anymore.
That's true. Well, I don't know.
You enjoy
I have
watching
fun
stuff.
watching people play games, but maybe I guess like overall, in general, it's not as fun.
So, shall we move on to Prey?
Let's do it.
Okay, I
The
pulled my
aliens
notes
in
for
Prey
this
are
one.
far less whimsical and fun.
Yeah, I know.
Well, actually, they're pretty whimsical. They're mimics.
yeah,
that's
the
whimsical.
mimics do seem to be pretty whimsical. Okay, so shall I talk about Prey? I've sort of got my little research summary pulled up.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so Prey, it was released this year, right?
Yep.
In, like, April or May.
Yep, when all the games came out.
And so basically, if you Google Prey video game, which is what I did, right? Because that's sort of how I prepare for these podcasts, is I Google title, video game, and then I read about it a little bit. You'll notice that there are actually two. We're talking about the 2017 one, but there's also a 2006 game called Prey, developed by Human Head Studios. Mm-hmm. What a name. Yeah, so from 2006, that at first I was like, oh, this is a completely unrelated game. You would be wrong, Madeline of a couple hours ago. It's not completely unrelated. There is a relationship. So this original game, I'm just giving this whole rundown because I thought it was interesting. This original game follows like a Cherokee whose name is Tommy, who was actually voiced by a Native American actor, which is awesome. Who, like, he and his girlfriend and his grandfather are abducted by, okay, listen to this, an alien spaceship, a circular alien spaceship called the Sphere, which is eating things from Earth to sustain itself. Now you tell me, what does that remind you of?
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, folks. It's Dark Katamari.
Wow, that game is just our crossover.
I saw that and I was like, they've literally already made our mashup. Yeah. Like, literally in my notes, I have in all caps, Katamari! So I thought that was hilarious. I thought it was hilarious that it was based on a game that's about, like, an alien spherical spaceship that's taking things from Earth to, like, eat.
Yeah.
Anyway. So, like, you know, he gets beamed up there and, like, he's a first-person shooter and he has to, like, stop the sphere. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's what you would expect it to be. But it was a super popular game, even though it took, like, 10 years to develop. Mostly because they were trying to develop some kind of portal-based engine, like, new engine, like, based on being able to have portals in the game, and, like, just weren't able to do it on their own and had to wait until somebody else developed it and blah, 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 blah. Right? Mm-hmm. But it was supposed to have a sequel. Like, it was published, went gold, like, right away. It was super popular. And, like, the ending screen of it is literally, "Prey will continue, ... Yeah. And so they were going to build a sequel to it. They were going to have a sequel to it, Prey 2. Except that, like, a couple of years later, it's sort of unclear if it's, like, sometime between 2009 and 2011, Bethesda, which is best known for the Elder Scrolls and Fallout, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Acquired the rights and basically were like, yeah, we don't want to make a sequel. It's not going to work. And totally put that away. And then, like, many, many years later, here we are. They've created this. Everywhere I read about this, it's like a reimagining of the intellectual property.
Yeah.
AKA a reboot.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even, like, literally the only thing in common between the two games is the name, and that, like, you know, it's like a protagonist pursued by aliens on a spaceship. That's the only, like, yeah, they could have made this an entirely new IP, and it wouldn't have been, like, copyright infringement or anything, even if they didn't own the rights. Like, I feel like it just, like, you know, like, it's so entirely removed from what Prey originally was.
But they own the rights and you get the hype, so...
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, so it's a first-person shooter. It's actually developed by Arcane Studios.
Yeah.
But Bethesda published it. And so you play as Morgan Yu, which, interestingly, you can choose whether you want Morgan to be a man or a woman, which is cool.
I mean, I feel like in first-person shooters, that's a lot easier.
Oh, for sure.
Like, there are some scenes where you see yourself. Like, there's, like, recordings where you talk to yourself. But, like, the amount of different assets that you need for a girl and a boy is just, like, so negligible that it seems like, why not do it at this point in time?
Okay, so this game takes place... And, like, the backstory to this game is massively complicated. Like, I was like, wow, this is a lot of lore here. So it takes place in a future where JFK survives his assassination attempt. I know, we're going way back here. So JFK survives his assassination attempt, and as a result, he puts a ton of money into a space race, right? And so then they find these aliens aboard the Russian satellite Sputnik. And so secretly the US and the USSR come together to fight them off and built, like, a space station cage for them, which orbits around the moon. And then for some reason the USSR falls apart in the mid-60s, and then, like, there's some kind of accident that happens in the 80s that causes the US to abandon this project, like the aliens, like, eat people or something. And now here we are in, like, the 2040s, and we're, like, some company bought the rights to the spaceship and is using it to, like, basically develop, like, neurological mods that turn people into superheroes. Mm-hmm. And so you're gonna go up, like, your brother has convinced you to come up to research, only then you get, like, hit on the head or something. And you wake up and you're in your apartment, but just kidding, you're not in your apartment, you're in a simulated version of your apartment, and it's 3 years later.
Well, no, that's not entirely true. And I don't feel like it's a particular spoiler, just because you get to it so early.
Go ahead.
But it's like you've been testing neuromods and they mess
wiped
with your
your memory.
Yeah. So you just have been repeating sort of like the similar day over and over again. So it's not like you've been unconscious for 3 years. But that's like, you find that out in like the first hour, I feel like. So, but it is like, it's a very effective, I feel like, opening. Like seeing the repetition and being able to like break things around your apartment, and like it's a really cool effect actually when you see like there's like a projection, but if you break the glass you can like see past it, but you can still see the projection, which is super. There's some super cool like graphical effects in this game. But you end up you're like mostly alone on the spaceship for reasons unknown. And you end up having to like fight off these aliens called mimics, which do exactly what they sound like. They
also
mimic things.
Aren't they called the Typhon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or something like that. I don't know.
I think that mimics are like a subset of the Typhon.
That's true. You're right.
The mimics are the most exciting
ones.
But yeah.
And all you have is like a gun that can like, well, I guess you have a couple of different types of weapons. There's one that like is like a glue gun or something.
Yeah, the glue gun is supposed to be really cool.
You can stick the mimics, or you can build different things that you can climb on and that sort of stuff. So it adds some like puzzly type elements to the like a Portal type system, but not like Portal.
Well,
but, like,
I was
using
reading
the first person shooter for puzzle stuff.
I was reading a lot of sort of like interviews with the people behind it, and they're very into this idea of emergent gameplay. Mm-hmm. Like, where basically the players, like, they want players to find their own ways to solve puzzles, that there isn't just, like, one way to get through, that there's, like, lots of different ways you can do it depending on your gameplay style, which I thought was interesting. I sort of wonder how much of that is really possible. Mm-hmm. Like, you still sort of have to say, like, okay, so maybe there are 10 ways to do it instead of one, but, like, there's still only 10 ways to do it. I don't know, just...
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's just sort of like your gameplay style anyway. Like they give you the option to be like, have your real gun or whatever, and then they give you the option to like have your glue gun or whatever. So it's more like, do you want to kill a lot of stuff, or do you want to puzzle through a lot of stuff? So I feel like there's not, like that's something that you can do in a lot of games.
There are other abilities. You can eventually sort of learn abilities from different aliens that you defeat. So it's like you can get sort of like a Jedi mind meld kind of thing. You've got like, I think you have like a Half-Life style like wrench sort of melee attack. You can learn how to shapeshift like the mimics, and that sort of opens up a lot of possibilities.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying like that's it. I'm just saying like, like it's good to give the players a lot of options for what they can do. I think that's good game design. But, at the end of the day, that's, like, it's not... I don't feel like it's an extraordinary thing. That should just be, like, something that a lot of games give you, is some sort of way to, like, express yourself in the game.
And, of course, because this is a game developed in 2017, we have to have it described as sort of an open world thing. Even though you sort of have to, like, open up different areas of the open world, right?
Well, it's like, sort of like Bioshock or System Shock.
Yes.
It's actually pretty similar to that.
Which is something else I wanted to talk about. So one of the major critiques of this game is that, like, sure, it's a great game, but, like, really all it is, like, taking pieces from System Shock and Bioshock and... a bunch of other games and like putting them together into a new game, and like what do they do that's new?
I mean, they called it like a spiritual successor to System Shock, right? Which is what I think Bioshock is also pretty inspired by System Shock, and there's a lot of games like that. But you can definitely see the similarities in sort of like the concept and game style. Especially I feel like not to spoil anything, but the ending is sort of determined by, like, how many side quests you do and the choices you make during those side quests.
That's another
thing.
It's
Which is also
2017.
really similar to Bioshock. And I feel like it's also kind of a flawed system. But I don't know if anyone's really done a morality system that's good. They're very hard, I feel like, to balance right.
I mean, I think that I agree. And we'll have to do a side quest about this, about morality and choice-based stuff, because it's becoming more and more like your game has to have this, right? Like, here we are, like, this is something your game has to have. It's very trendy and in, but, like, is it ultimately very satisfying? I don't want to, like, spoil the game. I want to talk about the end, but I don't want to spoil it.
Probably shouldn't spoil it.
Okay, well, I think that the ending is it seems like a lot to handle.
Mm-hmm.
And it also, the very, very ending, I can't imagine how they're going to handle doing a sequel.
Are they planning a sequel? Have they said anything?
I don't know. I feel
or like a direct sequel, not like a...
Oh, that's fair. But, like, don't we have to assume with any, reasonably large game at this point that they're planning a sequel?
I guess so, yeah.
It's interesting. I'll be interested to follow what happens, or if anything happens with that, because I do feel like they've dug a little bit of a hole for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Maybe I'll write a spoiler post about this on the blog.
Sure.
Because I don't feel like we can talk about it here.
Yeah, that's a good way to handle it, actually, whenever we want to talk about spoilers, but we don't feel like we should, ruin the listeners like that if they want to go play it themselves, and haven't had the chance yet. But if we post it on the blog, then people can, if they want to hear our thoughts about it, they can go look at it there.
Okay, so there's something else I wanted to talk about, like, sort of around this game. And that's that there was some controversy over... So IGN posted... Well, okay, so there's controversy. Bethesda has a really, really, really sort of draconian, review copy policy.
Mm-hmm.
In that they don't send out their, sort of, the games for review till, 24 hours before the game is released.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if you've played a video game in the last 5 years or so, there's obviously a problem with that, right? The reviewers don't have time to finish the game. But, of course, they're racing to post the first review, and so you're getting pulled in both directions of, these game reviewers, sort of have a responsibility to their readers to be like, hey, should you drop $60 on this game?
Yeah.
But if they're only given the copy 24 hours ahead of time... Either they can post, an incomplete, crappy review day of release,
mm-hmm.
or they can post it, 3 or 4 days after release, by which point they've missed that first wave.
Yeah.
And people have bought it without any kind of warning. But,
yeah.
Okay, so, there's that, which is kind of controversial in general about Bethesda. But there was also controversy because IGN's reviewer, Chris Stapleton, he liked the game. He enjoyed the game. He thought it was a good game. Eventually, he gave the game an 8 out of 10. But in his original review, he encountered what turned out to be a pretty rare, but still it's something that was out there, a game-breaking save bug.
Yeah.
So, basically, his save file would get corrupted, and so he'd have to go back, but then that would get corrupted, and, basically he couldn't finish the game.
Yeah.
So he gave it a 4 out of 10, because he said, I can't even though I really like this game, it's broken, I can't fix it, I can't give it a good rating.
Yeah.
And even though, they released a patch eventually, right?
Yeah.
Pretty soon. But now forever, even though he's updated his review since to be an 8 out of 10, and, you literally can't see his original review, right? I went to look for it, and you can't find it. But now on Metacritic, which is so influential in the video game world, it always will appear as a 4 out of 10, because they don't update.
Yeah. See, there have been other games that have, faced this issue, from certain reviewers. Recently, there's, a mid-indie game called Hellblade that people had some saving issues with, and they got some, low scores from that. The problem I have with that, although I respect the fact that the reviewers are this game is broken, I can't finish it, it's people's, especially at big studios, people's livelihoods are on the line based on the Metacritic score.
Yeah, you get bonuses based on Metacritic at some places.
Yeah, and if you don't do well enough, like, you're, they can fire you. Like, Metacritic is like, and Metacritic and stuff like that is literally the bread and butter of the game world. That's how they judge, like, how much they get paid and how much, that sort of stuff. And it's like, to give it a 4 when you are the only one experiencing, or one of the only ones experiencing this error, like, you just shouldn't give it a score. If they don't fix it ever, then you give it a low score. If they fix it, then you give it a score then. It just, like, it feels like, I guess it's like, well, journalistic integrity, but write the review, just don't give it a score yet, because that goes into Metacritic, whereas if you don't give a score, they can't put anything in there. So it's like, I don't know. It's just like a troublesome practice to give a game a really low score based on just like a save error or something like that.
So I will say I was reading today like an interesting blog post about this, which I will or maybe already have posted on our social media. That is like basically like saying like, okay, so like number rating systems are bad, right? Like they don't really help us. Like, we love them. They give us nice, clear, like, oh, this is an 8 out of 10 kind of things. But they also are just like very imprecise and awful, right?
Yeah.
Like almost.
A lot of game journalists don't like that system either because nobody reads the review.
Right. That's basically what it was saying. Is like, I get that nobody reads the review, but like you should read the review.
Yeah.
But, like, the part of the problem is, like, okay, like, almost every game gets rated somewhere between a 6 and an 8, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, when you do give a game something like a 4, it really sticks out.
Yeah.
When it shouldn't. When that should mean, like, this is a fine game.
Yeah.
But also, that...
Well, I don't know if... I guess a 4 doesn't read as a fine game, but I guess I think about it like school grades.
Fair enough. But still, that, like, sort of, like, really narrows, like, what's the difference between a 6 and a 7, you know? Like, that doesn't, in my mind, read as very different, even though that should mean something.
Well, IGN even gives, like, points, like, or maybe it's GameSpot, give, like, 5.4s and stuff like that. So.
Fair enough.
But, like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
When is something a 7.5 and when is it a 7.8?
Exactly. Especially when, like, this blog I was reading was saying, like, look, there have been some scores that I've given and I've, like, actually finished playing the game and whatever and realized that it was too high or too low or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, we're asking these reviewers to play these games lightning fast and give reviews, so of course they aren't going to be perfect. Mm-hmm. But also that, like, okay, taking away the numbers doesn't really help either. It's because if you look at Rotten Tomatoes... like, they will give, like, numerical scores to reviews, even that don't include them. Mm-hmm. Like, through some kind of algorithm or whatever, they'll find a way to say, this is a 72% fresh, review, this one right here, and we'll add it in. So, even if we took away all the numbers, somebody else would find a way to put the numbers on them. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's a tough system, and I would welcome further conversation about how to crack it or how better to do it.
Yeah. I think right now the issue is just like how much stock we put in the number, both from the consumer end and from the designer end. Just like the number is so incredibly important, especially like, especially like when looking at it, like, you get commercial sales eventually too, but like I feel like that's almost on the same level as the Metacritic, especially since you'll get the Metacritic first before you get like first month numbers or something like that. And just like there's too much weight placed on it, especially since like reviewers, like, they can be objective, but at the same time they have their preferences, you know? Like they like open world, or they don't like open world as much, or they like hack and slash, or they like shooters, you know? And so they can try to judge something that's like outside their area of expertise, especially because like not every thing has like, you know, several game reviewers on staff. Like the big sites do, but you know, other more normal news organizations will just have one that does every game. And it doesn't work, right? Because like it's hard for any media, you know, because even if you're like a film critic, it's like you go into a horror movie and you don't like horror movies, so how do you judge the horror movie?
But I feel like that's different. I feel like with film and with books and with theater and that kind of thing, unless you're getting into the very strange and very avant-garde, even if it's something like, I've been a theater reviewer now for, I mean, I don't really do it right now, but I've been a theater reviewer for 6 years, right? Mm-hmm. And like, even if I'm seeing a play that I don't like, I can still pick out, like, okay, the set is good, the acting is good. Even if I don't enjoy this, I see how this is a good film or a good play or whatever. Mm-hmm. Or I can see how someone who liked this would like it. But I feel like with video games, because, like, you are part of it, it becomes like I could not fairly review a first-person shooter.
Mm-hmm. Just because you're not
I couldn't.
fully...
I'm bad at those games,
yeah.
And that gets in the way of my being able to play them the way that they're intended. I would have to train myself to be better at playing first-person shooter to be able to really give a review that wasn't like, I'm bad at this, but...
Yeah.
Because I couldn't really tell you, like, the difficulty would feel insanely high at all times for me.
Yeah.
Whereas I could review Katamari for you just fine. I love Katamari. I can tell you the things that are bad about it, but I love it.
Yeah, and it becomes an issue for a consumer, too, because if you just look at the number, and you're not thinking about, like, the content of the game and what you like in a game, and you're just like, you know, this is a 9 out of 10, I should buy it. But, like, you know, what if you mostly like shooters, and, like, you're not really into any other kind of game system, it's not comfortable for you, then you wouldn't give it a 9 out of 10 in your own subjective opinion. But, like, if you read the review and see what the game actually is, then you're like, I don't know if I'll actually like that, you know?
This is something I've never really thought of before. It's like, how do you get the job as a video game reviewer? Like, I get that you... Okay, thank you. But, like, I get that you have to have the writing background and, you know, potentially some kind of background in games, but, like... I can't imagine anyone is like...
Or you get harassed by internet trolls.
Okay, fair enough. But, like, I can't imagine anyone is being like, okay, like, you're a good writer, you seem to have the background, now let's, like, play test you a little bit and make sure you have the necessary, like, playing skills.
Yeah. Well, I assume maybe at, like, stuff like Polygon and IGN and that sort of stuff, you probably in your application, you have to say, like, this is what I can review. Or at least, like, state your preferences in some way. And then they feel you out from there. But, like, I read the game reviews in the Washington Post, and honestly, they're just awful. It's the same guy for every game. He never says anything. He just, like, summarizes the game. And it's the space problem. He only has enough space to really, like, summarize the game and say, like, one good thing about it. Or one bad thing about it. And it's like... These reviews are so pointless. It doesn't even, like, discuss the game at all. But unfortunately, like, you know, for those mainstream sources, like, you know, one short game review is all that fits into their media or style section.
Every once in a while, when I'm researching games for this, encounter, like, decent New York Times game coverage. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not regular or anything by any means, but I will, like, they do write on it sometimes.
Yeah, sure.
I just feel like a lot of the time, unfortunately, unless you're on sort of one of the main... It boils down to, like, is this game fun?
Yeah.
Which I feel like is so reductive. It's like, we don't go to them... Like, we don't expect our film critics to just be like, is this movie, like, entertaining?
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, that shouldn't be how... we've been talking a little bit about game frameworks in my game design class, and, like, different ways you can, like, break down games. And the one I liked is, like, both when you're building a game and you're looking at a game, like, you have mechanics, dynamics, and aesthetics, right? And aesthetics are, like, how fun is it? but then like the dynamics are like what's causing, or like how you feel, is the aesthetics, and the dynamics are like what makes you feel that way, and the mechanics are like the specific things that are done to make the dynamics. So like you have to, so a lot of reviews only look at the aesthetics because that's the first thing you see, you feel, but then you have to think about it, like, why is it making me feel this way? What's the purpose behind it? You know, like that's actually how you analyze a game, as opposed to just being like, it's fun, or this part made me sad, you know?
But I think that's part of the problem, is that it's like, okay, so like if I'm gonna write a review of Dead of Light, right? Which, by the way, I am currently, sort of very slowly. But if I'm gonna write a review of that, of one episode is 20 minutes. So, theoretically, I watch the episode, I write a review. That could all take, like, if I'm fast about it, that could take an hour.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, realistically, probably an hour and a half. But even if I wanted to review that whole series, like, it's not longer than me watching a movie.
Yeah.
Whereas with video games, I feel like to get a nuanced review, you really need to have your, like, of the length of games that we deal with today, your reviewer really needs to have played, like, 20 hours of the game.
Yeah.
Probably more.
Well, that's why a lot of publishers, not including Bethesda, give it, like, a week ahead of time. At least.
That's why I think the thing that Bethesda does is so troubling. Because it's like, it's literally a con.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, Bethesda on the whole makes good games. Like, I won't say that they're like just con artists, right? Like, obviously they've made some really excellent games.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like, having this period where, yeah, either you're gonna get these like cranked out terrible reviews of just the first 5 hours of the game, or you have like 3 to 4 days at least of lag time before serious reviews come out. Like, that's a con on your customers, because they have nothing else to look at. I feel like in video games more than any other medium, it's like, well, with a movie, you know, you at least have the trailer, right?
Yeah.
Or with a book,
well, there are game trailers.
Right, but game trailers aren't the same. Like, a movie, watching a movie trailer is literally what you'll be doing. You'll be sitting in the theater and you'll be watching it. Watching a game trailer is not the same as playing a game.
Okay, sure, yeah.
And I think as we've seen sort of over and over and over again, even game demos can be very misleading.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we'll pour effort into making the demo look much more impressive than the game will ever actually be, or the trailer especially, more impressive than the game will ever actually be.
I mean, I think your first point is more valid, of like you're not actually playing it for the trailer, because movies do that too.
But I just think also, though, that, like, I mean, yes, I get that movie trailers are sometimes much more emotionally impactful than the film itself or whatever, but, like, they don't usually, like, take footage that doesn't exist or make the footage look better than it actually does, right? They'll, like, pull scenes that are good, sure. But there have been games where we've seen dishonest previews. Like, fully dishonest. Like, what I'm thinking of is No Man's Sky. But I'm sure there have been others.
To be fair, that's mostly dishonest actual statements from a developer, rather than, like, the trailers they released. So it's like the developer themselves is lying, whereas I think all trailers are always a little bit misleading on purpose, which is fine with me. That's just a marketing technique. As long as you're aware of it, it's fine. You know?
Fair enough. I'll have to do more research on this, because I feel like I've heard of games where it's like they've amped up the graphical quality beyond what you'll ever see in the real game.
Sure. I don't know if I super have a problem with that either.
Fair enough.
But I don't care as much about graphics as a lot of other gamers, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't, like, if they look fine, they look fine. That's sort of my thing. People are always like, oh, frame rate and stuff. I don't even know the difference when it's like 30 frames per second or 60 frames per second. I have no idea what that looks like.
Fair enough. Then I'll go back to my earlier point of, like, you're not actually playing the game.
Yeah,
I mean,
I feel like that's the most valid one. Is
Yeah.
like you if you watch a game trailer, you're not actually playing the game. So
And
you
even
can't
if you
really
play a
get
game
feel for it.
demo, I feel like it's like, okay, well, this hour of it isn't buggy, but who knows what you've done with the rest of it.
So we should do the crossover.
Yes. Well, it's already been made. It's called Prey 2006.
No, we have to make another one. We have to put some effort into it.
Okay. Do you have any ideas?
You are trapped on a spaceship, and all you have is this weird ball, and you gotta push it around and break stuff and roll stuff up. But sometimes there's aliens, and they'll mimic your ball, and then you have to go head on head and have to roll them up.
I feel like that's literally just Katamari on a spaceship.
But it's scary.
But it's scary. Katamari is already scary.
That's true. You're right.
Okay, so you live... Okay, here we go. It's Katamari, sort of, but you're perpetually in that King of all Cosmos shooting laser eyes at you. And so you're in that world, and you're having to, like, roll stuff up and get other aliens on your side and other Katamaris until you can eventually roll up the King of all Cosmos and take him down.
Wow. And also you inject neuromods into your eyeballs.
Well, that's, like, basically the same thing as the Royal Presence, right?
Yeah, except they go into your eyeballs.
Sure.
It's really freaky. That's the only reason I mentioned that. They inject it into your eyeball.
Into your eyeball.
Neuromods.
Just keep thinking about that.
Yeah, no. And it's first person, so keep thinking about that.
Keep thinking about it.
Continue to think about it. Think about the prince sticking a needle in his eyeball.
No, I think something where it's like you're in that like dark King of all Cosmos world and you eventually have to roll him up would be good.
Yeah. I don't know if that, I mean, besides like the dark environment though, I don't know how much that invokes prey.
You have to transform your Katamari into different shapes. And yourself into different cousins. Did we mention that? You don't have to play as the prince. You can play as one of his royal cousins. You've also rolled up.
Freaking cousins.
So you have to transform yourself into various cousins who have different neuromods.
Okay.
And can do different sort of rolling things. Like they can roll up different things, or their Katamari has special abilities. And you have to decide whether you want to like save people by rolling them up in your Katamari or leave them behind to die.
There's no advantage. There's no advantage to leaving them behind to die. There's no disadvantage of rolling them up. I mean,
maybe rolling them up. It's like your Katamari has to be a certain weight to get through something, or you can't get past if you're a certain size.
Oh, I see. There you go. Yeah, but there has to be some sort of like, why like otherwise it'd be like, yeah, I'll roll them up. I don't like. Why would I just leave them there to die if there's no disadvantage to it?
It's a morality system.
Yeah.
Also, if you roll up a bear at any point, game over.
Yeah, then it's it. You can't roll up any bears.
Your save file is corrupted.
Bears eat save files.
They do. Or cows. There's a cows one, too.
Cows eat save files. And
No,
bears.
I like this one. I like this dark reboot of Katamari.
Yeah.
I'll
That
buy
sounds
the
good.
intellectual property rights and make this reboot of Katamari that has almost nothing to do with the original game.
Sounds perfect. Okay. I have to go get the hats. Hold on.
Wow, so while Emma's getting the hats, I'll go ahead and talk about social media stuff while she can't hear. So you should follow us on Facebook, also follow us on Twitter, and like us, follow us, whatever you do on Instagram, all of them at Talk This Podcast. You should also check out our website, www.talkthispodcast.com. You can listen to our episodes there, you can read our blog, we have stuff about us. It's a super fun website, you should really check it out. Let's see, what
Look out
else?
for my review of Danganronpa V3.
Emma has literally been texting me about this game with no context, like, all
so
week.
sad! This game is so sad. It wasn't supposed to be sad. I'm so frustrated.
I'm sorry that I let her bring this up. On the Facebook and Instagram, you'll be seeing all sorts of little behind-the-scenes-y stuff. My Read This daily read of video game news. I think there's some good stuff coming up this week. Goodness, what else do I want to promote? Someday we'll have stuff on our YouTube channel.
Someday.
Emma's really putting a lot of work into it, so it'll be really good when it goes up.
Yeah. And when it starts going up, it'll be either a weekly or bi-weekly schedule.
Be sure to subscribe on iTunes if you aren't already, and leave us a review if you haven't, just saying how great the podcast is, or how you wish we would actually explain the games, or actually talk about the games that we say we're going to talk about. That's fine. I'm ready for that feedback. Emma, are we ready to pull games from the hats?
We are. Have the old games first. Tell me when.
When? Yes! Age of Mythology! Yes!
Yep.
Age of Mythology also makes my top 10 games. Age of Mythology probably makes my top 5 games.
Top 5 games?
Probably.
Not top 1?
I don't know. I have to really think about it.
That's true. I feel like for me, I'd have to like divide games into categories, and I could only pick one game from each category.
Perhaps. But don't put yourself into boxes that way. Pick the new game.
A lot of games that I like. Okay, new game. Tell me when.
Now.
Inside.
What's Inside?
It's a game.
Thanks. Wow.
It's
okay.
a really, really well-received indie game from last year, from the makers of Limbo.
I feel like I've gotten a lot better at pretending that I know things about games. But deep down inside, I still know nothing.
Yeah. Well, Inside is one worth knowing, I think. And I think there'll be stuff to talk about it. But that'll be a fun mashup. Not.
Everything is a fun mashup with Age of Mythology. It's just Age of Mythology. That's the mashup.
Okay.
Done. It's already a mashup. It's already Age of Empires with Greek mythology.
And, well, but even the first Egyptian one is, has all 3 major ones, right?
Yeah, Greek, Egyptian, and Norse.
Yeah. I don't know if those are actually the major ones, but those are the major ones in my mind.
Well, they feel major because we played Age of Mythology.
Yeah.
Okay, folks. So that's our show today. Thanks for tuning in. I already did our social media spiel, so be sure to follow us and like us and tell us things that you like or don't like. I've had fun with this episode, haven't you, Emma?
Sure have.
There's our review of the episode. The review in exactly the way we say we don't like reviews. Oh, this episode was fun.
Sure was.
8 out of 10.
Yay.
4 out of 10 for all of the yawns.
No. Are you in the yawn?
Oh, yes. That morality system. Like, I just lost morality points by making Emma yawn.
Yeah. Wow. What a bad thing to do.
And so, Emma, is there anything you want to say to our audience?
Nope. What about you?
Have a lovely day.